Good evening, our viewers and listeners all over the world. Welcome to another presentation here of the Issues Room broadcast here on Facebook. We're also streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the Issues Room page. We'd like to welcome you wherever you are. I'm Volcano Shelton. Uh, this is our 126th edition. Quite frankly, we were not here this past Friday, and it had to do with a special occasion that the Issues Room team had to attend in Dallas, Texas. But we're back here this evening, and over the weekend there were a lot of things going on in Liberia, and we're hopeful to come and join the occasion. To give you our own take on the issues strengthening the country. I'm sure that you are aware of many of the different platforms and different speakers all over Facebook have had their fair share of their analysis and the view, those who are for and against, and but everyone has a perspective to offer. And so that is why we are the alternative. You may hear John Brown giving his perspective, you may hear a platform giving its perspective, but in the grand scheme of things, we bring it from a more rather analytical, research-based standpoint and with journalistic ethics. Now, how you see it, that is defined by your interpretation. So we want to welcome you wherever you are to our broadcast here tonight, the 126th edition, live here, Virgin Monu. Welcome, Raymond Clark. I was in your town the other day. You knew we were coming and you didn't reach out. We tried reaching you, but apparently you were out of town. But anyhow, it's good to be back here. Let me bring my man Moses Sandy out there, Delaware. Listen, this morning it was extremely cold. I don't know about your end, but it was
Yes.
extremely cold. It reminded me of the weather we met in Texas on
Yeah,
Friday.
you know, we left for here on Friday morning, and always heard that, Texas, the weather condition is not as what we have here. And I did not watch the forecast. So I decided to just, take not a heavy coat. Man, Volcano, when we got there at our airport Friday morning, my fingers were all fizzy.
Yeah, I believe it had to do with the inclement weather, and it said it comes around every now and then because Texas
Yeah.
is a hot state. It doesn't really snow like
Hmm.
that, It
Yeah.
created that state of emergency, and there was a lot of, ice everywhere, the
I saw
highways,
it.
the
Hmm.
byways, the
Hmm.
overhead bridges, and so it was a state of emergency where the city was shut down for, I believe, almost 3 days. There were thousands of flights that were canceled. So we were
Yeah,
lucky, to make the trip, and so
definitely.
quite frankly it was cold. But by Saturday, interestingly, we didn't need coat.
No, we did not.
Only
The
going
things.
about in our suits. So of course, great weather. But the reason why we went to Texas was to lay to rest our former colleague, our former boss, who was Deputy Director General of the Liberia Broadcasting System in Liberia, the late Patrick Manjo. Patrick, we worked together for years. We came under his tutelage, his mentorship, and his grooming, and so it was saddening that he passed. But many of us traveled from across the country, and including Liberia. Sam Steve Koya came from Liberia, and the rest of us came from the West, the East, the Midwest, the South. Everyone converged to uh, give him a befitting burial in support of his time with us, and also to support his wife and his family. And the community turned of Moses in the numbers, the wakekeeping, the funeral, and at the gravesite. So it was a great occasion.
Definitely it was. The turnout was very impressive. The event was a summer gathering, but I would also term that as a mini homecoming for Liberian journalists because we had close to 15, Liberian journalists. I'm talking about seasoned broadcasters and, print journalists. We're not talking about guys who are holding cell phones around here today calling themselves journalists, but I'm talking about people with a profound understanding of how the media works. So the turnout was very impressive. And I'm very happy that you and I were able to form part of that group and to pay homage to someone who really contributed significantly to the growth and development of good journalism in Liberia, especially at the Liberia Broadcasting System, where
And
you and
indeed,
I worked.
Patrick had his stamp on everything, an all rounder. And so he really, really paved the way for many of us. And some of the flair, some of the skill set that we've developed over time and tuned it to our own development, we borrowed and copied from him as a consummate. And so we say thank you to everyone who showed up. We're still in bereavement, we're still in mourning with Mrs. Manjo, Gwendolyn Manjo. And honestly, it was a great, great occasion. But one other person I want to give all the thanks to in the world is Stanley George. Stanley George
Well, yeah.
played a great host to us. Stanley George was one of the young men who uh, worked with the Inquirer newspaper during the heyday of the Civil War. And honestly, he opened up his space to us. He had food ready for us. We went around. He hung up with us. He even took us to an occasion where we could spend a Saturday evening until we left on Sunday. So, Stanley, if you're watching the show, we say thank you for being so hospitable to your colleagues. In fact, let me run down the list. We had Octavius Obe, Steve Kennan, Tony Kennan, and their brothers. Tony worked in the finance sales department, put it that way, while Steve Kennan was assistant director general for
News.
news and public affairs at LBS. We had Octavius Obe. We had Massa Washington, who came from the print media, but also TRC. And she and Patrick have rather known each other for more than 40 years. We had Robert Guadacaju, who is the brother of the late Guadacaju, who
Who
formerly
also
worked
worked
with the
for
police.
LBS.
Yes, and then the police force as one of the producers there. We had Joe Anderson. We had help me now. Let's run through it. We had
Yeah.
Hassan Kewu. We
Hanson
had
Kewo.
you. We had me.
Yes.
Alex Red from
Yeah.
DC 101.
Sam Steve Queer.
Sam Steve Koya from LBS, who represented Cyrus Badio. Because someone
Yes.
asked me why wasn't Cyrus at the occasion, but Cyrus apparently couldn't make it because it was coming uh from a standpoint where he was out of country and it would have taken him a lot to get back to the States in time. So maybe he couldn't make it. So Steve Koya was his representation.
Yes.
Um,
Stanley George
Stanley George, of
that
course,
you just
yes.
talked about was in attendance.
Kadi Buhiri was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Kadiatu
Um,
Buhiri was there. Uh,
Suat Dede, former president of the press union
of the
and former
president of
secretary general of
Liberia.
the press union, was
Yeah.
also there. So a lot of us,
Dr. Ellis Red. Let us
I
not
did
forget
call his
about
name. I
him.
did call his
Oh,
name.
okay. Yeah.
South DC 101.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the kind of camaraderie we're talking about, coming together to lay to rest our fallen brother who died so young at a tender age of 62. Patrick was very young. And so in closing on this topic, Liberia lost one of its finest broadcast journalists. It's unfortunate that the generation today did not benefit from his skill set, from his talent, from his intelligence and everything. But let him pray that some of us hang around long enough to go back to Liberia, and hopefully we can contribute when the corridors open up to us. But the other thing now in Liberia, everybody has some kind of attachment. If you're trying to teach the man, from what I hear, if you're trying to teach the man and you're telling the man, hey, it's not time for you to go on the air, get to learn, get to know how to speak English, get to know how to communicate
The
well.
basic rudiments,
Man,
yeah.
leave from there and go to a representative and say, the people holding me back, the representative call you and say, hey, I want to hear my man on the air.
Is
So
that man?
everything now, there's no going through the ranks and files and the growth and development of a particular uh, skill set in the society, because people are anxious for everything and they're not willing to go through the rigors of getting better sharpening the skill set before they can come on radio. Or television. So that's the situation. But overall, I think it was a great occasion, and thank goodness that we were able to go and represent. So for those of you who didn't catch us, we carried the wakekeeping. The intent was to carry the wakekeeping, but connection was giving problem in the funeral home. I tried to get a Wi-Fi from them. They didn't know their own number, and so my signal was poor. And every time I tried to come on, it was just cut off. But thank goodness we were able to, do the funeral and the gravesite. So overall, it was a great occasion, and I believe that those of you who were privileged to see it can attest that Patrick got a befitting bearer. So Moses, we didn't broadcast last Friday because of Patrick's stuff, but on Saturday, President Weah was petitioned, and we were at a funeral, and we're saying how we're missing out on what's happening on the grounds. But of course, social media has a way of feeding you everything. Before I continue, I would like to welcome JS Romeo Nabil. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Sam Bondo from Stephen Talbot Estate. You're becoming a regular. We appreciate your time, my brother. You are in the right place. Flomo Livingstone, of course, Thomas Awaji. We got a small joke with you, Thomas. Masa told us what happened between you. So we're talking about that off the camera.
Yeah.
Josh M. Johnson, we say welcome, welcome, welcome. We're hoping that the other guys will come in again. Forgy Monu and Raymond Clark, thank you for joining us here tonight. So Moses, as I was saying, the seditions decided to petition the current president, who is in his last term and months to the end of his term, and ask him for another 6 years. Now, did they ask him, or is he forcing himself? So the two things there. Elko Pape from Minnesota, welcome. Did they ask him, or the whole thing is arranged? You'll come,
Yeah,
go ahead. You want to say something? Go ahead.
yeah. Look, this is what I want to say. If you follow what happened Saturday and the news are emanating from Liberia, it seems to suggest that what happened on Saturday was stage managed. Because don't forget now, the Congress for Democratic, the CDC, the Congress for Democratic Change, the CDC.
Coalition.
Oh yeah, the coalition. No, before the
Yeah, yeah,
coalition, it
yeah,
was
yeah,
the Congress
yeah.
for
Congress. Yeah.
Democratic Change, the CDC. The CDC, the NPP, and another political party headed by former Speaker Tyler. These parties form a coalition called the Coalition for Democratic Change. Okay. Now, what we are hearing is that the nomination, the re-nomination of President Weah for another for another 6 year, we are told, was stage managed by the Congress for Democratic Change. Uh, the NPP did not support the re-nomination. It is also my understanding that most of the executives did not attend the program on Saturday. Don't forget, Prince Johnson Political Party, the MDR, is also a part of that coalition. But right now, Mr. Johnson or Senator Johnson is our loggerhead with President Weah and his officials. So Senator Johnson and his people also did not participate. From us, just a moment, please.
All right. So let me quickly continue here. Hold your piece there. So as Moses was saying, so my thought process here is that indeed uh, it appeared to be staged. Why it is true that the intent is to go back into office, what we saw didn't come across as the natural phenomena. The natural phenomena. People coming on their own volition, partisans, and we'll come to more of it with the giving of money
Yeah.
And we have videos trending on social media where monies were given. There's a guy sitting there with the money and giving money. Some people saying $20 US. Some people say it was about $1 million in value, US dollars in value that it kind of dispersed. But when you look at the whole protocol and everything, it just didn't make sense. But then we also look at the scare tactics with some of the folks who supposed to be ordinary, wearing ammunition, wearing guns.
Even EPS
Yeah.
officers that you and I expect to be neutrals, because anyone who work for the government of Liberia, especially in the security sector, uh, should be neutral in a political process. But on Saturday, we saw a good number of them wearing t-shirts with the inscription "We are 2023." So it means that the security forces became what compromised, and that should not be happening. That's a violation of the election laws of Liberia. That's a violation of the national security laws of Liberia as well. But like I was saying, Senator Johnson and his people did not participate. Former Speaker Tyler, his party also did not support the process. So Mr. Weir and his people went to the renomination process with a fractured, coalition. Now, what we are hearing is that a lot of work has been done behind the scene to rejuvenate the spirit of unity amongst the various political parties that put this coalition together. But I can tell you, Senator Johnson has already declared that, as far as concerned, he doesn't think that his party is going to support Mr. Weir for another 6 years.
So that creates a further, a little more conundrum in the process and the bid for the presidency. But let's come just to the optics and how Moses, the whole picture was painted. You have a man who claims to be the people's darling, who the people love. Why then will you start to give money? Because this is the first time I've seen this in the open too. For any, of our elections in Liberia, from the day that you and I got to know ourselves, uh, the first and foremost election was the Do 85 elections. We didn't see that. Now, maybe the barrel of the gun scared the people, and we know that that election was considered rigged. Then we come to the Charles Taylor election. That was very overwhelming. In fact, he's won one of the most populous elections on the continent, and if you want to say the world, because again, it was 75% or more. People blame it on the fact that people were fatigued. They didn't want to go back to running here and there. And so they say you vote for, Kimapa will vote for you. Then you had the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf 2 terms. Um,
Presidency.
yeah. And then we come to Mr. Weir, who didn't share money in the first, you know, term, but now he understands the depth of where he is and how much of a hole he dug for himself due to the lack of leadership, due to gross incompetence, due to rampant corruption. Let me use Samuel Doe and the PRC people. Rampant corruption. Due to all of these things, now he's scared to the point now they're coming and giving money broad day. Wouldn't that be considered a violation of the democratic process? When
Of
you
course.
taking the country's money to give to your partisans, to lure them into coming as a crowd, to create that believability factor that you're still relevant. It
Of
does it,
course, that's a serious offense that undermines the entire electoral process. And let me hasten to say that what we saw on Saturday was a pre-campaign activity, and that's a violation of the National Elections Commission of Liberia electoral guidelines. There are laws that front on pre-campaign activities. If you look around Monrovia, if you see some of the videos, everywhere people went, you saw billboards. You saw billboards. You saw Mr. Weir's photos on public facilities, on public buildings. You saw EPS officers wearing T-shirts. You saw a marketer. I mean, it was all over the place. That was more like campaigning, and that's a violation of the election law. Now, in the wake of that, and this is where again the integrity of the elections commission is going to come in question. Mr. Weir violated the electoral law on Saturday. The CDC violated the electoral law on Saturday. And guess what, Volcano? This morning, the Honorable Yeka Koluba, Representative Yeka Koluba of Montserrat County, he also went to the Capitol building today. He carried billboards
Yeah.
with the photo of Mr. Rizana
The
Cummings.
opposition. The
Yeah, of the
opposition.
opposition. Yeah, he carried the billboard to the Capitol, and he said, as far as concerned, pre-campaign activities in Liberia have already started. And so he has already started campaigning for the opposition. Now, let's wait to see whether, because Honorable Koluba has challenged authority
To take down the
of,
banner.
yeah, to take down the banner. He has challenged authority, including the Speaker of the House of Representatives, to take down his banner. He said if that happens, he will stand up for himself. And I don't know how he's going to do that, but let's see whether the NDC is going to come and hold any of these groups accountable, because Mr. Weir has already broken the electoral laws. The pre-campaign activity law has been broken by the CDC. Now, another thing for Canada.
Okay.
Do you remember when the ANC had what they call "We Are Tired" rally
Hmm.
in Monrovia? At that rally, an aide, a security guard assigned to Mr. Cummings, was arrested because the police claimed that he was carrying a gun. Last Saturday, people saw individuals in civilian outfits carrying weapons. Are those individuals government security officers, or they are not? If they are not, then who authorized them to carry arms? That's another question. So this is where again the laws of the country will have to come into place. Mr. Cummings' security was arrested and detained. I think the matter is currently being probed. So what happens to the individuals that were carrying guns on Saturday of last week, Volcano? You want to help me out on that?
So I'm not going there right away, but I want to talk about the whole what you consider petition.
Yeah,
A petition can be done by a few group of people
absolutely.
to come to the president and say, we want to do a formal ceremony, maybe 50 people, the stalwarts in the coalition of democratic change or the CDC itself, and say, Mr. President, we think that it's overwhelming that the people want you to go back, so we are petitioning you. But we are just want everything to be a fanfare. And you can see when the things are staged. Do you have to go through all of that? What if, as a result of the petition and the so-called crowd you try to generate to create some kind of, what I would consider public
Impression that he's
sentiment,
popular.
to
Yeah,
make it seem as though you are overwhelmingly wanted by the people, and people have died as a result of a stampede? How will you have reconciled? So these people don't even think about the unintended consequences and the risk factor. Everybody just jump in the streets. Everybody just want to be a part of the process. Now, when you incentivize the process by giving monies and giving t-shirts and giving these things, then of course you expect this to happen. Had we are and his associates not put money in the picture, we wouldn't have seen the so-called crowd that it professed to have had. Now, the numbers from people saying 1.5 million, but you know
Hmm.
that's not true.
No, but
The capacity over there could not sustain 1.5 million. So maybe you're talking about the people who were all in the marketplaces, who were running around, or who wore the t-shirt. But what guarantees you that the people who are wearing the t-shirts are your partisans? What guarantees you that the people who took your $20 or your monies, however the amount is, are partisans? What guarantees you that the people who are shouting Zegwe and throwing their fist up in the air? We saw that with Thomas Fala. We saw how Darius Dillon didn't put no money out. Thomas Fala was the walking ATM who went around and dishing monies, and how he was beaten mercilessly. So we cannot say because you appear to pull a crowd, so it means that yes, indeed, the CDC is relevant come 23. But you talked about the weapon thing. Yes, of course, anyone looking at the situation would think that it is a risk factor for weapons to be in the hands of the wrong people, particularly in a crowd like that. The I wouldn't call use of weapon, but I would call the carrying of weapon. Put it that way. The carrying of weapon should be done in a way that the professionals, the people who are close to the president, his, security detail should be the ones holding weapon. Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But in the same token, the people who are protecting the president in his security detail, whether they are seditions or not, they should not identify in any kind of party regalia. They should not. It is constitutionally wrong. Just like I'm a journalist, if I have a political party, except I decide to recuse myself from practices of journalism and the ethics involved, then I can go flagging my party gear. But if I don't care and I do it, I can be judged by that. That can create the what we'll consider the bias, right?
yeah, the
So
biasness.
security people, like a general in this country, the general has no party lineage because the general is answerable to whoever the commander in chief is. So when you have a general and a chief of staff are partisans, then what happens? The military is
They're
compromised.
compromised.
When you have security, uh, Patrick Sulu of CDC, then of course you have the police compromised. When you have all of these people are in a party and they are showing that they're in a party, but in terms of identifying with the party using its regalia, all of its clothing, insignia, all of these things, it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong because what that picture is painted to appear to be. And how do you compromise that as an elections commission? How do you allow that to happen? Because again, the elections commission is owned by the government. And you can see that because the most neutral body should come out with a vehement statement.
By
Okay?
now, yeah.
Yeah, by now and saying, listen, we know that we in this merriment, but this should never happen. And these are the guidelines that must be followed until we open campaign. But they're not going to say it. And then when the opposition comes and do that, then it's going to come across as though they are not following the rules and regulations in the country. It's 7:30, my people. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Issues Room. This is our 126th edition. We're discussing the petition put to President George Weah to run again for 2023. We're looking at some of the flaws in that petition, what happened, what shouldn't have happened, and how it compromises the electoral process come 2023. If we can see some of these things happening now with no lid put on it, of course, it will spill over the brink, and that could create a serious uh, irregularities for our elections, and then it will come across as not being democratic, free, fair for the people. We're broadcasting on Tuesdays and Fridays every week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the Issues Room page. We encourage you to share the word, invite others to join us here. These are the moments that we want to engage you, our Liberians, our Africans, and those of you in the Black diaspora to understand what is trending across the world, but particularly Liberia. We are in the most difficult decision making time of our country's history, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to chime in. We want you to call. We want you to share the link. We want you to invite others, and we want you to be a part of the conversation. We encourage you to comment so that we can post your comments. We encourage you to call when we open the lines. Again, welcome Moses, Sandy, Volcano, Shelton here in the Issues Room. Moses.
Yeah, so Volcano, let me just say this. You talk about the costs associated with, trooping people from all over the country Monrovia, for a so-called nomination ceremony. Now, after spending thousands of dollars.
By the way, my son is out there, Pecos Island, Liberia. He's watching the show tonight. Welcome,
Okay.
Vitas. It's good to see you, my man. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
Continue.
yeah. So as I was saying, after spending thousands of dollars to literally, induce people to show up as an embarrassment to the government, yesterday, the United States government frowned on the Liberian government for the reported abuse of money donated by you and I, taxpayers of the United States, for health services in Margibi County. So, Volcano, let's look at this at a family level. You cannot sustain your health facilities in Margibi. The United States say we will give you money to run these facilities, family planning, provide effective services, health services to your people, and you misdirect that money. You, Volcano, you give me money to help my kids, and I choose to use the money to go to the club for entertainment. Does that make me a good dad? You see how irresponsible Mr. Weir and his government, officials are? You see how embarrassing that is? After the ambassador, the US ambassador spoke about funds being misdirected, funds intended for health services in Margibi, donated by US taxpayers being misdirected, the government came out today and issued, as they always do, they issue a statement saying that they have instituted a probe. Do you need to do this?
In fact, if
Volcano.
the money was used for the intended purpose, then there wouldn't be the need for a probe. And but then money's
Look,
getting missing, but then you're dishing out money
you're dishing out money.
for just a petition. This is just a
Okay.
petition. So let's just say, in the truest of sense, if this president and the party called CDC spend about $1 million to draw the crowd, then how much more would they spend on the day of elections?
And
How much more would they spend toward the campaign? How
yeah.
much more? Because then the voters can say, wait a minute, when you get it, we know you will forget, but also $100. Oh, my brother, I'm telling you, what in it for me
Oh
now?
yeah,
What, yeah, what in
you
it
know,
for me now? So if you can dish out all that money just for a petition
yeah,
to
just for a
create
petitioning
to
ceremony,
create
there
to
was about
create
a real
to
election.
create
Yeah.
an impression that you are relevant, you have the crowd, the people are in favor of you, they love you, then what more you will spend, Moses? And this is at the detriment of the suffering people, Where are these monies coming from? You
Where?
think about it. This president has said that he has all these big, grandiose projects. But when you look at these projects, they're substandard, to be frank with you, and they haven't gone far. But you can see his associates around him are already millionaires. You had a debt of close to $1 billion, nine
Yeah.
hundred million, close to a
Mm-hmm.
billion dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we hear now, the debt now is
It's
almost $2 billion.
it's $2 billion.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So within the $2 billion, let's say we do all of the extraction of things that have happened over those 5 years of your leadership, and we're able to really do a thorough audit. You will see that probably 500 million of that money are in the pockets of Weah and his associates. 500 million of that money have gone to the little things here and there and salaries and all of that. But I'm just giving you the hypothetical. That is why they don't want to be audited. That is why they went after auditors who had some very, very important documents to reveal to the Liberian people. That is why these people are not in a position to do asset declaration. Because had they done asset declaration, Moses, you and I wouldn't be having the conversation,
No.
pointing fingers. We would have known that, listen, Jefferson Koji came with a leaning shoes.
Yes.
Today now he's wearing bow tie and suits. We know that Nathaniel McGill came with nothing. He would barely pay his rent. Today he has mansions and palaces, and he buried his mother in a mausoleum, built a home. We know that Samuel Toure was just scrambling, and today he's a super millionaire. We know that it took the American government to pressure the government of Liberia to look at some of his corrupt officials because the evidence are there. So this is why we're not taken seriously as a nation based on the current arrangement. And I continue to say, and I remain resolute. I'll be like Yeka Koluba. He said, I got no regret for what I say. Mr. Weah is running our country like a crowd ball government. There's no check and balance. There is no accountability. No, he doesn't even hold anyone accountable. He has to be pressured. And I don't want to use the word durex, but it will come across as durex to get him to conform to do certain things. Is this what we're going to take for another 6 years, Moses? The danger, the danger for another 6 years. Imagine before you come in, if these brothers were so brave in the first 6 months to begin to build condominiums all over the place and homes, and $25 million getting lost, and $16 billion, and all these negative malfeasance attached just in the first year of his government. And it has continued, this trend continued. Bold-faced lie, dry-faced lie, over and over and over and over. If these people continue to do this in the first 5 years, come on, my brother, what would they do if you gave them a second term?
Of course, the situation will get worse. Things will get exacerbated.
So if the Liberian people are not feeling the pinch yet, the journey begins now. If you cannot make the necessary decisions to impact your livelihood for not just you now, but the children and the children, then you're running a serious race with your future and the country. One thing I'll say before you come in, Moses, Liberia will remain. Liberia will remain. If you say Liberia at the elephant meet, everybody come and cut, or Liberia at will, you'll keep cutting, but it will remain.
You know what what you just said, Volcano. It just took me back to a recent funeral that I attended, and the individual was stable financially. And after all these rituals, we went and deposited this individual to a little spot like this. And while driving from the cemetery, I said to myself, well, all this thing we do, we kill other people, we cheat other people, we cheat our countries only because we want everything for ourselves. When you die, what do you take with you, Volcano? Nothing. Everything is vanity.
But let me make that point quick.
Everything. Go
Since you
ahead.
asked the question, go back into time and let's just do the itemization, okay?
Mhm.
Let's start with President Tolbert. He built a dream house he never lived in.
No,
Whether it got to completion or not, he never lived in it. And I'm sure his aspiration to live in that home was as high as everything else he wanted in life. Then we fast forward to Samuel Doe. Built a dream house in Tucson. Never lived in it.
never living.
Never slept in it. Right?
No.
Then we come to President Charles Taylor. His white flower he bought and renovated, and there it sits in uh I wouldn't call it ruin, but I'll
Remains
call it,
unattended. Yeah.
yeah, I'll call it sits in more like a closure.
Mhm.
Okay, because the fence is high. So it's like a closure. President Tubman's house is out there on the boulevard across the road. So these people have served, they have attained wealth, and when they're gone, where are the wealth? Go to
Everything
Maryland
crumbles on
County,
them.
up Cape.
Hmm.
Tubman House is a frame.
Hmm.
So the same thing will happen to George. We are Jamaica Resort will become a frame.
It's just a matter of time, man.
9th Street resident will be a frame. If we cannot even take care of our national infrastructure, our stadium, to the point that they ban it, ministerial complex many nights in the darkness, the Capitol building, the flushing commode with bucket of water from a drum. All right? Temple of
Yeah.
Justice, all these places, all our institutions, just filthy. We can't even sustain those institutions as government. What do you think about a personal human being who, after he no longer have access to money, free money, I call it free money, corrupt
Yeah,
money,
free money. Yeah, free
what
money.
happens?
What happens?
Then, needless to say, if he passes on, because Solomon says everything we work for is vanity,
It's vanity.
and all of our toiling and laboring, we end up like a dry leaf, and those things are left to the fools,
I'm
and the
telling
fools
you.
squander them.
Everything.
And that would be that would be the demise of many of these people and the so-called ill-gotten wealth. And it's apparent to me that with all of the different examples of world leaders who had it all, the Gaddafi, the Saddam Hussein,
Yeah.
the Nicolas
Adolf
Ceausescu,
Hitler.
Adolf Hitler,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mussolini of
Yeah.
Italy,
All
all of
these
these
people. Yeah.
powerful people. What have they left behind? What is
Nothing.
the monumental relics they've left behind?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Everything
We
gone with
just
them.
talk about them because they're part of history. They're part of history. If we mention the name Samuel Doe, it's only because he's a part of history. Charles Taylor is sitting in a 6x6 cell. Here's a guy who the other day was in his mansion, in his grandeur, with chandeliers over him, white suit, with a cane in his hand, white handkerchief and waving it. Look how he was collected like a stepchild, cuffed and deposited in a 6x6 in London.
Mhm.
Think about it. And what make you think that the more you hurt the Liberian people, the more you hurt your country, you got a free pass?
You don't. And the only thing that is permanent in life It's time. There always going to be transition. You and I are here today. There's going to come a time we will not be here. Others will come and even do better than what we do now. Before we came, there were others who did their best, and we came and took it over. I hope our political leaders will begin to think like human beings. The only thing you can leave Volcano that will live after you is your legacy. They say he did this. He was a man of principle. He respected others. He treated others as human beings. It was all not about himself. And that's the problem we have in Liberia today. Volcano, as I sat back on Saturday and watched some of those videos, I asked myself, people we consider quote unquote educated literally champion the cause of an individual that is taking the country to nowhere. How do you promote an individual who is literally taking your country to the ground?
Because they're benefiting in subtle ways, Moses. Most of these people have to protect what they never had now that they have. And they believe that the keeping of we are in power provides that protection.
It's sad.
Provides that protection, provides that job security. But we was very clear in his church. He said, but it Prince Johnson in support fine. And we get a job. We'll take all the job from them. The new people
Yeah,
who support.
can
Yeah,
you imagine the
yeah,
message when
yeah,
you go in, you should take all your people with you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
see how low he is?
Yeah, can you imagine that? So when we sharing again,
Yeah.
yeah, and then he also said that some other people not even follow him because they want to protect they want to protect their job and the family livelihood. So of course some of those people would then become CDC, like you're saying.
Mhm.
They know that it's wrong, that this guy has done little to nothing in
Nothing.
terms of leadership in the country, but yet they are celebrating
They celebrate him.
him and they're giving him the free pass.
Yeah.
It's not a degree of ignorance. The issues room posted something says that never underestimate the
Yeah, I saw
ignorance
that.
and the
Yeah.
illiteracy of the Liberian people,
Yeah.
because we are could win a second term. And of course, but that would bring us to what do you make of this petition? Is it a fear now for the opposition, or is it an enlightenment for the opposition to say, wait a minute, we need to get our acts together? And I
A
want to
very,
hear from you
yeah,
because
that's
honestly,
mhm,
honestly,
mhm.
irrespective of you of everyone painting the picture, whether it was staged, the fact that the people came in the thousands, that they even had to spray water on them because of the heat, they were able to stomach that stench, that sweat, okay, and stay there through the occasion. There were pictures of people who felt, oh, other men sleeping until the election day. He's not getting up to elections. You know, all kinds of stuff went on.
Yeah.
What signal does it send to our current opposition? Because in the opposition, you have Tier 1 Gonglo, you have the new young man, Moniba, who hasn't even gotten he's still sitting on what I would consider the wooden bench.
Mhm.
So I'm giving him stages now. He hasn't graduated
Graduated from there.
to the wooden bench into a little rattan chair before I say a stool, and then it'll
Yeah.
come into a
He
regular
wants to
chair.
be
So he got a
president.
long way to go.
Yeah.
But you also have Mr. Boycott and now Alexander Cummings.
Yeah.
Those are the four names. I know
Mhm.
there are other names out
Councilor
there,
Gonglo.
and Jeremiah Kuhn, of course, of Prince Johnson Party. But it's not helping because these people, we're not seeing anything. Man, listen, if Yeka Koluba was a presidential candidate, maybe he would make his case more than all these people. I'll be honest with you. Yeka Koluba is fighting for the people than they fight for themselves.
Of course.
Look in legislature the other day when Yeke was rallying the troops.
Yeah.
CDC went there in the numbers to jail the crowd and jail the president. They violated again the norms of
Of course,
what
yeah,
it
of
should have been. So
of
Yeger
someone, yeah.
decided to seize the movement too. But
Mhm.
who joined him? Who
Nobody,
opposition joined him?
nobody. They all sat by
You
and look
know,
at him.
so what does it paint? This petition, what does it do for the opposition? Are they now scared, or
Yeah,
is it enlightenment for them that they need to get their acts together?
absolutely. That I would take that. I think the message is sent is that it's time for the opposition to get its acts together. Because like you said, Volcano, a lot of things are happening. I can tell you one of the things that the CDC is determined to do is to capitalize on the destitution, the illiteracy of our people.
And those are key words. The ignorance, the destitution, the indigent condition of the people, all of those things. And they're keeping them in that state
Yeah,
so that they
that's
can be confused.
exploit them.
Yeah.
That's what it did. Those people that assemble on Saturday that were receiving the 20 US dollars per person, many of them go for days before regular meal. So if someone went out in a community and say, hey, my man, let's meet at this place, they're gonna be free food, free transportation. And then when you're coming back home, you have 20 US dollars. Do you know what it means? When someone is in a state of desperation, that person's ability to think and act rationally is impaired. That's what happening to Liberia. A significant number of our people live in abject poverty, and people exploit their destitution. That's what Mr. Weir, that's what the CDC and the others are doing. They don't love Liberia. They take the taxpayers' money and throw chicken change at the people, and they think they're doing good. That's why you saw all those people in the street. If you were to go back and talk to those people one on one, a good number of them will tell you they did it because times are hard. And so this is the time for the opposition to begin to educate more. The opposition has a lot of work to do. When people are poor, they don't look at the future, they look at the now, the immediacy. How do I put food on the table for my kids today? They're not talking about, oh, my man, uh, you can build a house 2, 3 years from now. They may say, but what will my children eat today? That's what they're looking at. And that's what Mr. Weir and his people are using to literally purchase the support of the people. They take the country's money and throw chicken change at them and tell them, say, this man is the man. How do you support someone that when he goes to international conferences, he mounts the podium? You are terrified that this man is going to come and embarrass you because it's not comparable to his peers. How do you support someone who has led the country for almost 6 years but has never delivered a state, that has never addressed the nation on critical issues obtaining in the country? Never. When the country is faced with crisis, that's when he goes about gallivanting. And this is the man that asking you for another 6 years. Are our people thinking? Are they doing this critical analysis? It's like you have a wife. You come home, food is never ready. Every time it's argument. Nothing seems to be working. But she continues to tell you that she's a good wife. And you continue to throw money at her. does not make you look stupid. That's what Mr. Weir is doing to these people. That's what the CDC is doing to our people, exploiting our people, taking advantage of them. How do you
But then
support?
let's leave
Yeah.
the CDC and let's talk
Mhm.
about this opposition
Yeah.
because we are months away from the national elections, and we see the opposition look flatlined. They don't seem to have vitality. There's no assertiveness. There's no vocalization. They're not coming out there. Again, as I said, if Yeka Koluba was running for president, he would have made his case.
Of
Yeah,
course.
we're not making scare we are.
Yeah, he's the only
The man
man.
say I ugly like menacing already. So what there for me to be afraid of? That the only making scare we are. So if these people not ready, let's petition Yeka Koluba.
Yeah,
No, seriously.
I mean, like you said, Volcano, our
So
people
that
need to
crazy
get
man,
it as
let crazy man, ignorant man meet. Let's see how they will deal with it. Okay.
yeah. Our opposition leaders need to get their eyes together. They have to put Liberia first. Put all this personal ego thing here behind you. This is about the future of Liberia. Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 will be a moment of decision making in Liberia. Either the country moves forward or remains stagnant. Liberians will have to make that choice that they either make the country to move forward or allow it to retrogress for another 6 years. So if you are 50, if you will be 50 by then, by 56, whether you will be able to have a job or you will continue to stay at home and play checker all day.
And Ludu.
Yeah, play checker and Ludo. And some of them play cards. Can you imagine, Volcano? Someone who spent years going to LU graduates, no job.
But you know something I always say to myself? I said, but how can you work out with all your limbs correct, your
Yeah.
faculty in place,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just become like this?
Nothing to do.
Day by day, you only wish for something to put in your stomach, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Like, oh,
Whether that berry, you remember berry when
oh,
you eat
I know.
dry,
You eat a dry rice, my
you
man.
eat dry, you get
Yeah.
berry.
In fact,
What
you
are
can't
the
even get a palm oil, my man. You eat
berry?
a dry rice like
Yeah.
that with a salt.
With chicken soup, one chicken
Yeah.
soup. Well, man,
Yeah.
we know those days. We been
Yeah.
down that road,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but we knew that the way out was to push ourselves
You gotta push
and to make
yourself.
the wisest decision for the long term. You cannot be settling for mediocrity. You cannot be
Absolutely.
settling for the spirit of the moment right here and now. You gotta prep yourself and you gotta push yourself. But man, someday I sit here and I say, damn, what if someone else was staying in Liberia? What the situation would look like? Where we
Uh,
where may I have ended up? Okay, I was doing well in Liberia before I left. At least I had a job. At
yeah.
least
That
I
you
was
went to
house
every
me.
day. Yeah.
At least but what would have happened?
And and
So I say these things. That's just me thinking. Who God blessed and gave the opportunity to be out of that country for the last 25 years. But what happens to those people now who are on the grounds and are thinking this way and can't find the answer? But I say to you, my people, tonight, the answer is simple. Go and register to vote when the process begins. Go and register to vote when the process begins. Do not give up. Do not say there's no need for me to waste my time to go stand in the line. If your desire is to give we the presidency, go and stand in the line. Go and
vote for
register.
him.
And if you think your life is beautiful, go ahead.
Well, vote for
But if
him.
you know that you have been with this government for 5 years, going six, and you can see the constant downward,
The
okay,
country.
trend, and you don't take the action now to register and vote and maybe change things around, then it's on you.
It's on you.
But that's the way you can change your destiny. Rather than sit there and play Ludo, spend that time to go and get registered and spend that time to go and vote your conscience. Vote who you want with belief that will change your destiny. But it's an encouragement. We want you to vote. The line will now be opened 404 2808. We encourage you to call here, join the conversation. Again, we're just discussing the petition of President Weah by his editions the other day on Saturday. What does it mean for the electoral process comes 2023, the national elections in October. But how is the opposition going to respond to all of this and what would they do to make themselves a formidable force? We want to hear from you. Don't be a stranger. Join us here in the issues room. The number is now posted 404 272 2808. Come tell us what you think. Again, many of us here in the diaspora are supporting Liberia. What influence do we have in the country? Do we have influence with our family members? Are we for WIA? Yes. If we're for WIA, we tell our family members go and vote for WIA. But if we
Yeah.
want to see change, and again, let us not get it wrong. What we're talking about here has nothing to do with a particular candidate in the opposition. I don't care who becomes president.
I don't
And I say
care.
I don't care. I don't care. And the reason
But
why I don't care, because I alone cannot make that decision. And I don't think I have the freedom to make that decision. I can enlighten, I can throw light upon. So if Waka becomes president, fine. If Cummings becomes president, if Gonglo becomes president, if Weah becomes president, I'm not the one going to really feel the pinch. You, the Liberian people, will feel the pinch. Now, we'll feel the pinch in ways, but again, you will feel the worst. The worst. So we encourage you to start thinking, start analyzing the situation, start looking around you, start opening your eyes, start getting yourself together so that you have a sane mind on October 10th to make that decision. So we want you to call 404-272-2808. You're here in the issues room, the alternative social media platform discussing the things that matter pertinent to our country, Liberia, to the African continent, and to the Black diaspora. But Moses, before we take any call, I'd like to also mention here that Turkey and Syria
mhm.
had a serious earthquake.
Oh, okay.
And thousands of people,
Oh
thousands
man,
of
it's
people
sad to hear
died
that, man. It's very sad.
as a result. Right
Yeah,
now, there's blackouts. It's tough getting in the rubble. So the death
yeah,
toll continue to rise. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So the issues room is in solidarity and mourning with the people of Turkey and the people of Syria. Again, is another global calamity that have befallen our world, coupled with the issues in Ukraine, and on the horizon, we have global warming, and we can see many of the countries in the Pacific Ocean are disappearing. Countries like Tuvalu and so many of those countries are disappearing. They're island countries, and they're disappearing minute by minute. And sooner or later, many of those countries will be no more. So while we focus on Liberia's issue, there's a global, village, and sometimes we like to throw light on some of those things. And so we just want to push the people of Turkey and the people of Syria, the government, and people there that will work assiduously, hopefully, to regain control of the situation because it's really serious in both those countries.
yeah, man. It is very sad to hear that. But let me just say something to our people. As I said earlier, this is the time to make that decision. Do a comparative analysis. Do what we call self-evaluation. Let's say hypothetically, you were 20 when Mr. Weah took over as president of the Republic of Liberia. And today you are 26. Have you worked? Do you have a job? Do you go to friends that literally treat you like you're nobody? only because they give you handouts, and that's how you live. Have you thought about that? Are you able to support a family? Can you sustain a place of your own? For the past 6 years, have you been able to do that? Why you have not been able to do that, Mr. Weir has been able to accumulate mansions upon mansions. He and his cronies, they drive around in flashy cars at the expense of the country. They give you nothing. You go to your hospitals, no drugs. The schools in shambles. The roads in shambles. Rule of law in shambles. A country on autopilot. Have you thought about that? Ask yourself some of these questions. Will you be able to get a job if you re-elect this man come October? Will you be able to get a job for the next 6 years to come? And if your answer is no, I am not saying vote for this person, vote for that person. I am saying make the right decision. This is about you. This is about the future of your country. Mr. Weir lacks the leadership capability to even lead a room of 5 presidents. He's disengaged. He's clueless about what his job duties and responsibilities are. He lacks the ability to represent you. Wherever he goes, he becomes an embarrassment to Liberia. This is the time for Liberians to say, we made a mistake. My sister, now you have 3 children. The kids are not in school. You are not working. Your husband has nothing to do. Before Mr. Weir came to the presidency, your husband had a job as a janitor at the Ministry of Information where he made over $100, but now he makes $45 a month. Have you thought about that? And Saturday, they had you jubilating against this man who came and took job from your husband. Have you thought about that? This is not a campaign against George Weir, but all we are saying here is, Liberian, it's time for you to think and make that right decision. Do not allow $20 to take the future of your country away. Volcano, it's up to you.
So let me add that President Weir came to power. He did some downsizing, and then he presented harmonization, cut people's salary, pretended to set the president on himself. And Weir doesn't have to even think about salaries because
No.
the man every month he gets $300,000 coming to him.
Mhm.
But whether hook or crook, his certain people in the government must bring that money in the grip. So really salary doesn't matter. But yeah, he did this. Then the government is the biggest employer at this time, and the people are not being paid well and not on time. And so for months they don't get paid. We go right back into the same circle of previous governments. No investor. So no investors coming in the country. So how then do you expect anyone to get a job?
Right.
Everybody seems to want to work for the government or must work for the government or must be on government salary, whether in the public sector is the biggest employer rather than making the private sector the biggest employer. Then everybody is selling, Moses.
Because no
People call
job,
you,
Volcano.
people call
No
you,
job.
I won't do business. Okay. Now you got the money, you started business before 3 days. You already finished buying scratch card. You buy one bag of rest, the rest finish. Then you say the people can buy. Then my own money going red bank. It's over. It's over.
I mean,
I
that's
mean, I'm telling you the
overrated.
truth. It going
It
right back.
is.
And I
It
dare
is.
not ask how the business coming on because I'm not going to get any respon responsible answer. I'm
Uh,
not. So then you got everybody selling and you can see it. And then those poor people who are selling, they sometimes leave with nothing purchased from them. So they
yeah.
go home with that goods, they come back the next day.
Yeah.
Then when small chaos take place, they are on the suffering end. For
Yeah.
instance, what happened when Fina Bondo said she was giving the Zogo man and money and she get the money? What happened? Other men took to the street,
And then I
who
took to
suffer?
the
And now the
street.
poor people, now the poor
Yeah.
people suffer.
You see
Then
that?
you have the country, all you can hear, the theme of the country, Moses, the country too hard.
Yeah.
The country too
Wow.
hard. Do you know what that means when life is hard, Moses? When
Of
life
course.
is hard, it's like you can't G nor haul. You
I mean,
don't even have wiggle room. And that's what you hear every day when you talk to friends, when you talk to family members. The country is too hard.
yeah.
So I thought to throw this out here. Salary harmonization. Uh, Government being the biggest employer, no investment in the country, no investors coming in. Uh, Only the few Indian guys and Lebanese guys who are themselves, benefiting as a result of their uncontrollable pricing. Everything they make their own price. Everybody has their own price. So as a result, they can make the money through the poor people and those monies that they're giving the corrupt officials. They get that through hiking prices. Then everybody is selling. Everywhere you turn, Liberia is a country of sellers, not a country of workers, people who are working to build the society, people who are picking up trades and commerce and construction going on. Matter of fact, most of the construction now are foreigners coming to Liberia
Hmm.
because the Liberians themselves who have gotten these ill-gotten wealth, they're not trusting that their own people can do the job. So
Yeah.
because now they can afford, they're bringing the foreigners to do their building projects. So then that deprives the Liberians from the opportunity to be employed. So
Yeah.
a lot of things are working against the people. A lot of things. They are not citizens in their own country anymore. They don't have first preference in their own country. They don't. Let Liberians tell me that they have preference, first preference in their own country. You and I can leave from here as Liberians. We want to do investment in the country. The first thing they discourage us by the way they invite us in the country that we got to do X, Y, Z. Instead of this government saying that every Liberian who wants to do business in the country, you're free to come and do your business because I claim that you will not be spectator. So there's no bottlenecks, there's no extra tariff, there's none of those things. As a Liberian citizen who wants to bring back to the country, you're free and you're tax free for 5 years. You're tax free
But
for 5 years. We can do that, Moses. Let me continue. We can do that because I want you to pay attention.
yeah,
Right now, the taxes they say they're collecting, it is cherry picking.
of course.
Only certain people paying
Certain
taxes in
people pay
Liberia.
taxes. Yeah, that's true.
Government officials, I bet they're not paying taxes.
What you talking
Who
about?
dare tax collector go to Buffer Chamber House? I dare tax collector to go to Jefferson Koji House and say you're coming to get property
But you
tax.
talk about levy. Do they pay levy?
So all of these things are the reason why the country is extremely, extremely
Hmm.
hard. And is that what you want to take into another 6 years? Some of us have given up already. Some of us have given up already. We're just spectators now. We are spectators, Moses. And wherever the game ends, fine with us.
Hmm.
But you got the case to deal with. You got the condition to deal with. You. So again, all of these pointers we put in here is to enlighten Liberian people that we own a ride. And this ride, there will be scenery. When you take a train ride, you don't just go sit in the train and just look straight. You're looking around. You're scanning your environment. You're trying to make sure that what you're seeing Makes sense, right? So
Hmm.
as we go through this process, you want to scan the environment, you want to scan the political landscape, Liberian voters. You want to research more, you want to talk, you want to engage, you want to get involved in the process. Don't wait on the day of election and just go, you know, undecisively, just put your finger on the ink and then put your finger on somebody's face. You want to make sure that it is decisive. You've done the research. You projected what the future will look like for the next 6 years. And you
Absolutely.
can only do that by what you see. And you got people who are making the case. We got people right now on Facebook, some of them who are on the other side of the cross carpet. They're down there talking all kinds of stuff. They're
Yeah.
seeing now that they're cataloging the things that we have done.
Yeah. You know.
But what really can you show that we has done in those
Absolutely.
last 6 years?
Absolutely
Have
nothing.
you seen the picture of the little small football field they put in West Point or
Yeah. Yeah.
surrounding
I
that little
saw
field
the other guy.
that they
Yeah.
put there? I don't know
Hmm.
whether it's just a little park stadium. We'll call
Hmm.
it park stadium. It's not a stadium, but it's just a park stadium. And all the zinc shack, Pupu plantation, all around it. Is that development for real? Or you should be fighting to move the people somewhere and create a place for investment, hotels and tourism. So the people are not far-sighted, Moses.
No, but you use a very key word that our people are contented with mediocrity. The little thing they get contented with. You have to think big. You can always remain at one level. But what I would like to leave with our people, especially the electors, is that as adults, we all have the right to what we call self determination. If you choose to allow yourself to go for another 6 years, it's your right. To go for another 6 years with hardship, it is your right. If the other person chooses to vote the other way because he or she believes that the life of today is not a life that worth living, it is also that person's right. That's what makes us different from children. We have the ability to rationalize, to think through, to do comparative analysis and say, you know what? I cannot afford to live in a room that is $20 now because my entire income is $10 a month. I will look for something that costs $2 because that's affordable for me. And the other man say, I will live in a room that costs $50 because the man knows I earn maybe $400-500 a month. The right to self-determination. This is about the future of Liberia. This is about your future, the future of your country. Ain't no time for joke. It is no time for joke. Where did you come from? Where are you today? Are you telling me that earlier, Volcano, you talk about the Lebanese and the others? These guys come to Liberia. Our individuals who make decisions regarding the awarding of contracts. They award contract to these people at the expense of their own people because why? The guys come, they offer what? Bribes. Bribes. It's all about somebody getting a kickback. So if this is all about someone getting a kickback, then it's time for you to say, well, you know what? I think we need a change for the better because this is not working out. Okay, no. And that's how I would like to wrap it there.
Yeah, but Moses, so I mean, the bottom line here is that we are climbing a hill, and when you think about it, it's collective. Whether we are people, opposition people, we're all climbing the hill.
Mhm.
but who gets to the top of the hill wins the prize. And again, we is doing what he know to do best. Okay? The opposition need to do what they know to do best.
Absolutely.
And with everything that's happening, I can say that he believes the opposition will come together shortly. So
Hope
maybe
so.
they're talking behind the scene. But when we look at the configuration of the opposition, it even becomes scary. And I know they're not going to like me for what I'm saying now, but it becomes scary because no one is willing to be a servant leader. No one is willing to be selfless.
No, everybody wants to be the boss.
Everyone wants to be a president, but not everyone can be a president. Not everyone cut for the job. This job, if you really want to do well, Moses, if you really care about changing Liberia and doing well, this is no ordinary feat. This is no ordinary responsibility.
Absolutely.
Jacinta Ardern said it. You either have it or you don't have it. You either love it or you can't do it no more. So when you look at everyone who wants to be president, we has already shown he can't do it. He's shown that he's not cut for it. He's only riding on the ignorance and the gullibility and the sentiments and the popularity. Those key words are the reason why we are his president. But when we're looking for value and substance and leadership, someone who takes the initiative, someone who holds people accountable, someone who is a forward thinker, who is far-sighted, a man leads with moral authority, a great communicator, a mobilizer, someone who can engage the international community, someone who is able to build networking, someone who's able to attract investment. It is no ordinary job for Boyka, for Cummings, for Tiawan, for Jeremiah Kuhn. This is not just about talking. This is about doing. And it requires man hours, sleepless hours. If you really want to change the country, you can't sit around. You can't play Ludo. You can't go in studio. If you're playing, a little basketball or getting your little exercise at 15, 20 minutes, you don't sit there all day and do play Ludo, call a man and you drink Hennessy. Particularly for a third world country like Liberia that can't show anything for itself. One thing, let me throw this in here as a worry. You see that that Do River Bridge that going to Rawas International Airport? I'm afraid for that bridge. That's the same way I'm afraid for Liberia. That very bridge, the bridge is separating from the land. And people taking it for joke. And if that bridge cuts, no more flying out of Monrovia. Maybe you have to go to Kakata way, come away of Habel. But when I say no more flying, it means that your route now will be long. That's the same way I'm afraid for Liberia. Because we don't have the structure in place. That is why there is no joke for the next president. I see why people say Boyka is old. If Boyka is 79 years going 80, what's the vigor? Don't get me wrong. He still may have his capacity to rationalize and think. But there's a degree of fatigue that comes with his job, Moses.
I know
Especially when you have a broken down cabinet.
It's very tiring.
When you have a bad executive branch. When there's no system to hold those people accountable. So there's a lot of work here that needs to be done. So just saying opposition, Boyka, Cummings. I know some of you are fans, but yes, This is no ordinary job. Some of us who just leading few people, we can feel the pinch. How much more about a country? And some people just think this thing that they're right. Or because we are got it with ease, and
Yeah.
because we are enjoying it with ease, so we must settle again for an opposition that will come and do the same thing that we are doing. Then what's the essence? So even as the Liberian people begin to think, as they begin to think, they want to be sure that the opposition candidate will not be another business as usual, will come to work, will roll off their sleeve, will have sleepless nights, will have visitors coming 2 o'clock in the morning, and they will be available to see those visitors. They will stay up at night. They will
Mhm.
read documents before they affix their signatures. They will engage the people. They will tell the people how the money is being spent, how development are coming in the country, what they stand to benefit. Nothing will be in secret. That's the kind of opposition president we want. So, Moses,
Mhm.
that is where I stand.
I agree.
The presidency
So,
is not an ordinary job. It
absolutely.
comes with absolute serious responsibility.
Absolutely. In fact,
Especially,
I would say leadership as a whole comes with significant responsibility.
we watch the time. We're wrapping up now.
Yeah. When the people impose their trust and confidence in you, you cannot afford to let them down. That's what Mr. Weir does, or that's what he has done over the year. The people repose their explicit confidence in him. What did he do for the past 6 years? He looked the other way, completely disengaged, clueless about happiness in his own country. And he's all over the place, paying people to give him another 6 years. This is sad for Volcano.
Thank you
And
all
let's wrap
for
it there.
joining
Yeah.
us here tonight. We want to say this is how we close up here in the issues room tonight. Emmanuel Jackson, thank you, my brother, for coming through the word Tokao. It was good seeing you here. Make the issues room a platform that you can stop by Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Richard Hammer, it was good seeing you. Tony and Brooks, better late than never. Good to see you in the house. Thomas Awaji, great to see you, my brother J.S. Romeo Nabil. Rivers as Pro, we're looking forward to hearing from you, but apparently you just kind of pop in, so it was good seeing you. We like to encourage you to continue to invite others to love us, like us, and follow us, vite us. Irvin Euphrates Shelton, it was good seeing you. Raymond Clark, Bennett O'Connor, as usual. Thank you, Elko Pape, for coming through Sam Bondo from Stephen Tubble Estate in the Gardnersville area. Liberia, Flomo Livingstone, my man. Good to see you again tonight, George M. Johnson. Good to see you. Good to see everyone who showed up here. Forget rather, Monu, for coming through. We'll be back here on Friday. Don't know what it would be, but we can imagine Liberia is never gonna let us down. Something gonna come up. But we hope that it will be a positive, okay? Because
Yeah.
we just want to look at some positive things about our country. So again, we say thank you all for joining us here. Have a good night, and Moses, you too on your end.
Thank you.
It's good teaming up again.
Thank you, Volcano. Enjoy
Thank you.
your evening, man.
Thank you, Liberians. Thank you, Africans. Thank you, the Black diaspora, for your audienceship. We appreciate you always. Thank you so much. Good night.